This is Thomas Wake, astrowake.com. We are doing the week of April, we'll say 8th, 9th, until 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th. Alright, what we have coming out, starting us off, is this fiery Page of Wands. This is Aries season. We're in Aries season right now. We have this hushpa. We have this fire underneath our butt. The moon just came out of Gemini, and as I'm doing this, the moon's in Gemini. Communications, fiery communications. That entrepreneurial, positive optimism, that Sagittarian, Jupiterian energy, but like a young Jupiter, a young Zeus, a young Jesus, when he just starts his ministry. He's got a little bit more hope. Now, what's crossing this is there's the Gemini who can't make up their mind. There's a Libra who doesn't have their grounding balanced. They're too caught up in the air. They don't have their scales balanced. Trying to choose between perhaps this project to go forward with, this project to go forward with. Can we find a way to meld them two together? Or which one is not serving you any longer, that's hindering you, drop that one so you can focus on one. That's the problem of Gemini and its opposite, Sagittarius. They can't focus the arrow, but when they do focus the arrow on one thing, then they can go deep into it and do a lot with it. So, too much mental unclarity. As Mercury is getting out of its shadow in Pisces, it's going to have an opportunity to have a clearer vision, clairvoyance. Right now, with Venus coming to conjunct Neptune in Pisces, while Mercury is on the tail end of it getting out of its shadow, this is a great time for spiritual love, mystical union, in meditation, in contemplation, in theurgy, in divining yourself, and divinization. People argue against divinization as from the devil. You know how they chose the apostle to fulfill Judas after he left? They drew freaking straws, a form of divinization. What is in our ground, in our lower heavens, our imium quale? Not feeling like we were being blessed, feeling drained emotionally, feeling like unlucky, like we're thirsty for something that's not being fulfilled. Let's ask for a clarifying card on this. You could do that. We call in our helpers, our angels, our beneficent friends in the ethereal. We're going into hermit mode to work on our projects perhaps a little bit more. Pointing back to that Page of Wands. We're working to get ready to take something to market. We're doing the behind the scenes work right now. Perhaps we have some doubts, we have some fears. Perhaps we need to... It's all right. Don't just throw something out there without working on it. That's what Saturn's teaching us right now. The sun's about to go into a square with Saturn, where the north-south node is causing a T-square, and then the moon is going to be there his quarter lunation phase. What does this mean? This means, to my humble opinion, that, see, when we go into the dark, we look for the light in the dark. And we do this as like that pious hermit who is cutting off the things of the world, of the hustle and bustle of the Gemini moon. Things could be very hectic, and then they slow down, and then it's intense, and then it's this great coming together at the end. That's how this week is. In our recent past, a mental decision that we made, perhaps to cut off things that are no longer serving us and that are impeding us on our further journey. And perhaps we have the hand of God coming in to cut it off. Perhaps we're able to do that before the universe has to come in, because the universe is ultimately king. So if we align with it, then we are victorious. The wreaths of victory crowning us. The magician, that's ultimately Gemini. Mercury. There's Mercury right there, the great magician. Got all of his elements in front of him. He knows how to use them. He knows what this world's all about. He knows how to manifest. What you attract, what you put out is what you attract. As above, so below. I take my ownership of my power. I know things aren't perfect, and therefore nothing's perfect, perhaps. And then if nothing's perfect, at the same time, everything can be perfect. One, that Aries starting a new world. Oh, getting ready to manifest in Taurus season. Perhaps even jumping ahead to that Gemini season. Ooh, I like it. And then to look out for in the future. Judgment. Perhaps we're not. What's keeping us from being that ultimate magician that we're being called to is not being able to judge and we have mercy, we have love and compassion on ourselves. We can't be over severe on ourselves. That's the temptation right now with Saturn and all the strong energy together with Pluto. There's a lot of that in the middle of this week, Wednesday and Thursday, and Friday especially. It clears up Friday evening. But in between that is like a tragic death experience. And this doesn't have to be physically on the global stage. Perhaps. But perhaps that could be more of a microcosmic level. Maybe, let's do this. Let us take that thing that's in our life. Lord knows I have plenty of them. Let me just pick this one thing that I know is hindering me from being the best I can be. My true, authentic, best version of myself. The Christ within, if you will. The Buddha within, if that's your thing. The Superman, the Ubermensch, if that's your thing. What is it really? If I discern, if I take the time to reflect and take a reality check and say, okay, without being too hard on myself, without having a loving, forgiving, everything's exactly how it's supposed to be. I am exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. That trust, that faith in the universe, in God. I trust that I am there. But now let me also see in retrospect, in introspect, what is it in my life that's holding me back from really living my best life? Living my best life. Oh, there's something. Yep, that's definitely hurt my relationship with others and myself and the divinity inside of me and in others and in everything. Okay. I see how that, for me not cutting that off, that it's hurting me, and I see obstacles, circumstances, challenges that come in from the exterior world that are here to help me to chop that off. Okay, let me join together and take that handle and say, hey, I get it. I get the lesson you're trying to teach me. Okay, let's work together. And now let's turn that sword away from the inside of us into our heart. Let us pull that sword out of our hearts. Now let us clean off the blade of that sword in some beautiful Neptunian, Piscean, Venetian water. A nice loving wake, a funeral service. You deaded that, Pluto and Saturn, South Node conjunct. Let us hold a funeral service for that thing. And say, okay, you taught me a lot. Thank you for everything you've taught me, but you're no longer needed. And I am mad about it because I probably manifested it. If not in this life, perhaps in the early parts of my life, but perhaps in other lives, my friends. Now we hold a beautiful wake. How do the Irish people do wakes? They do their crying, but then they do their partying and their celebration that we survived through it, that we're still alive. And why it's awake? Because really, when you die here, you awake to your eternal best self that you had a chance to work on a little bit in this go round. Final card. And then we have financial blessings, because we've done that work interiorly. And what we do interiorly will manifest exteriorly. And then ultimately, there's no really big difference in it. But it's not going to happen without work and that passion in that work. If you're doing something without that passion in it, stop doing it. You might have to take a risk. Have a little faith, brother, because then you'll be victorious. If you don't have that faith, you won't be riding into town. But if you do have that faith in what? In yourself, in the goodness of others, ultimately, and the universe, then you walk through with that wreath of victory on you, recognized by your peers, by the universe, for staying true to yourself and never selling out. One last card from the Oracle deck. Let's see if it has anything to say with anything. Soul's Journey deck is what it's called. It's beautiful. It smells beautiful. And they have mandalas. Oh, look at the one that came up. Death. Look at that mandala. Upside down death. You know what what we talk about, having a funeral, my friends. Dying to that stuff. And then what? I am learning that endings are merely beginnings.